The October 22nd, 2024 episode of the Maniacs podcast, hosted by Robin Torgrimson, stands out not only for its emotional weight, but also for the thoughtful reflection on manipulation and abuse within religious institutions, specifically World Harvest Church. Robin's guest, Chris, shared a powerful personal story of spiritual awakening, disillusionment, and eventual healing after enduring spiritual abuse under the leadership of Rod Parsley at World Harvest Church and Bible College. This podcast episode, while focused on Chris's journey, sheds light on the broader issues of control, exploitation, and emotional manipulation that have permeated institutions like World Harvest. Here is a thorough assessment of the episode. The courage of speaking out against institutional abuse. This episode is commendable for the courage it takes to openly criticize a large and influential religious organization like World Harvest Church. Both Robin and Chris demonstrate incredible bravery by tackling difficult and personal subjects that many would shy away from, especially when confronting spiritual leaders who hold significant power. Chris's journey from an enthusiastic, spiritually awakened 12-year-old to a disillusioned adult who suffered emotionally and spiritually at the hands of the church is heart-wrenching. His experiences of being drawn into World Harvest Bible College with pure intentions, only to be met with toxic leadership and manipulative practices, highlight the corrupt nature of the institution. The fact that Chris remained involved for years, first as a student and later working on the construction crew and HVAC department, underscores how deeply entrenched individuals can become in such environments, often sacrificing their well-being for the sake of the higher calling they believe they are serving. Abusive power structures. One of the most striking aspects of the podcast was Chris's revelation about the power dynamics at World Harvest Church, where the leadership, especially Rod Parsley, wielded control over the congregation and staff. Chris recalls how the church prioritized outward expressions of faith and rigid conformity, and how failure to adhere to these expectations was met with punitive measures. For example, he discusses the rigid demands placed on Bible college students, the pressure to conform, and the emotionally abusive rhetoric used to shame and control those who did not fall in line. The manipulation of spiritual authority to maintain power is a theme that resonates deeply in Chris's story. He shares how leaders like Rod Parsley would raise money under false pretenses, leading their followers to believe that they were contributing to a cause for the youth, but the funds were instead diverted to serve the institution's broader financial needs. This deceptive fundraising, coupled with the exploitation of free labor by requiring students and workers to volunteer without fair compensation, illustrates the depths of corruption within the institution. It is particularly egregious that a place purportedly built on faith and service to God could manipulate and exploit those most vulnerable, all while presenting itself as a beacon of righteousness. Spiritual and emotional manipulation. The podcast episode highlights a number of incidents in which Chris was manipulated and controlled by the leadership at World Harvest. The emotional toll these experiences took on him is palpable, as he recounts the physical and emotional scars left by the church. Chris describes several moments where church leaders shamed him for not adhering strictly to their expectations, whether it was attending services instead of youth events, or being guilted for taking time off from work even after suffering a near-fatal accident. These instances reflect a pattern of control, where the church leadership used guilt, shame, and spiritual authority to keep individuals in line. Chris also speaks to the spiritual manipulation that occurred under the guise of prophetic messages or divine revelations. For instance, he mentions Rod Parsley's sermon about raising the roof, which involved pressuring the congregation to donate large sums of money to complete a building project. These tactics, wherein church leaders claim to have received special directives from God that required financial contributions, reveal a deeply corrupt system where faith was commodified and exploited for personal gain.
Would you like it if you had to live in a house that didn't have a roof? God's house is laying in ruins. If we don't do something now, if I don't tell these builders, go! They have already told me if I don't tell them within the next 2 weeks they can start, they refuse to start until next May. It's going to sit there till May. I don't have a dollar yet. Not a dollar. And I'm not going to the bank. I don't have to, and I do what God told me to do. God told me, raise the roof. I walked around with that word for almost 48 hours. Raise the roof? What are you talking about? I thought he was talking about celebration in here. And they came to me and they said, Pastor, we're out of money. We don't have a dime. We don't get a roof on this place by November 22nd. If we don't do it, by the time that bad weather hits, it's going to sit till May. We're going to waste thousands of dollars. Steel is rusting. Here's what I'm asking for. It's 20 weeks till November the 22nd. 20 weeks. By then, the roof's going to be on that building. Now, I'm going to tell you this. That's 80,000 square feet. We can put the roof on it. We can put the roof on it for $500,000. We can put the whole roof on the whole thing and get it out of the weather. Here's what I'm asking for. I want 1,000 people with $500. If you can't give the whole $500 today, I'm giving you till November the 22nd to give it. But I need everybody that can possibly give it today to give it today, because we got to go. Monday morning, we got to go. We've got a lot more than $500,000 to go in that building. But God spoke to me, and when God spoke that to me, I then asked them. They're all here today. They can tell you what a prophetic unction I've been under. I said, how much is it going to cost? God spoke to me that we were to raise the roof, and God spoke to me to ask 1,000 people for $500. Tell me I know what I'm doing in the Spirit. I know exactly what I'm doing. I want somebody to help me raise the roof. Every person that will say, Pastor, I'm going to join you. I'm going to give 500, and I'm going to do it today. I'm going to do it today.
Impact on personal faith and life. A particularly moving part of the episode is when Chris speaks about the spiritual and emotional impact these experiences had on his faith. He expresses deep sorrow and anger over how the innocence of his faith was taken advantage of by the very people who were supposed to nurture and guide him. The abuse, control, and manipulation he suffered not only hurt him personally, but also led to a profound disillusionment with institutional religion as a whole. Chris's eventual rejection of organized church services in favor of a more personal, genuine relationship with God is a tragic but all too common outcome for those who have experienced spiritual abuse. He speaks about how, even today, he finds it difficult to trust any church, fearing that others will suffer the same fate he did. This loss of trust is one of the most devastating consequences of religious abuse, as it not only harms the individual's relationship with the church, but can also erode their faith in God. Critique of false spiritual leaders. One of the strongest critiques in the podcast is aimed at the leadership of Rod Parsley and other leaders at World Harvest Church. Chris's reflections on how Parsley and others misused their positions of authority, whether through deceptive fundraising tactics, manipulative sermons, or the exploitation of free labor, paint a damning picture of a church that was more interested in maintaining wealth and power than in serving its congregation. The podcast doesn't just stop at condemning Parsley. It extends this critique to the entire culture of prosperity gospel preaching, which equates financial success with spiritual favor and often places an undue burden on congregants to give more than they can afford. Chris's story reveals how this toxic theology can lead to the spiritual and emotional ruin of those who get caught up in its promises. He describes how, despite his best efforts to serve God and the church, he was consistently let down by leaders who prioritized their own interests over the well-being of their flock. The physical and emotional toll of manipulation. In one particularly harrowing account, Chris describes a near-death experience while working on the church's construction crew. The church leadership's callous disregard for his well-being, as evidenced by their failure to send him to the hospital after a serious injury, is a testament to the way they valued productivity over human life. Chris's story is a stark reminder of how institutions like World Harvest can strip individuals of their humanity, treating them as disposable resources to be used up in service of the church's financial and material goals. The emotional toll this manipulation takes is evident throughout Chris's story. He shares how the constant pressure to conform and the lack of care or compassion from church leaders led to burnout, anxiety, and depression. These emotional scars, which continue to affect him years after leaving the church, are a testament to the long-term damage caused by abusive religious institutions. It's particularly tragic to hear how Chris's experience with spiritual abuse not only shattered his faith in the church, but also had a profound impact on his personal life, leading to the breakdown of his marriage and a prolonged struggle to rebuild his life and faith. Despite the heavy subject matter, the podcast does offer a message of hope and encouragement. Chris, having endured years of spiritual abuse and manipulation, speaks to the healing process he has gone through and the importance of finding a personal relationship with God outside of institutional religion. His message to others who have been hurt by similar experiences is clear: do not give up on God because of the failings of human institutions. He encourages listeners to seek out genuine connections with God and to find healing and support through healthy, loving communities. This message of hope is echoed by Robin, who offers her continued prayers and support to those still trapped in abusive religious environments. Conclusion: a call for accountability. The October 22nd episode of the Mega Maniacs podcast is a powerful condemnation of the toxic leadership at World Harvest Church and similar institutions. Through Chris's personal testimony, the episode exposes the manipulation, control, and exploitation that occurs in such environments, offering a damning critique of leaders like Rod Parsley, who misuse their spiritual authority for personal gain. At the same time, the episode offers a message of hope and healing to those who have been hurt by these experiences, encouraging them to find a genuine relationship with God outside the confines of abusive institutions. This podcast serves as an important reminder that justice and accountability are long overdue for religious organizations that have caused immense harm to their congregations. It calls on listeners to stand up against spiritual abuse, to support those who have been hurt, and to demand transparency and integrity from those in positions of power.